So yeah, what's new?
What is new? Well, flew to Amsterdam sometime earlier this week, gave a speech at the Corporate Research Forum. It was really interesting, enjoyed it. Flew back, felt a bit ropey, bit knackered. Lots on,
Mm,
lots of different bits and bobs, working with some really interesting clients in different sectors, designing a leadership program. That's awesome for somebody who wants to do something really experiential and innovative, and they've got some budget. So that's been absolutely delightful.
mm,
But probably just a bit too much to do, which, as
mm.
they used to say, PA is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, good problem to
How
have.
about you? How's things?
Yeah, all right.
New place?
Yeah, new place. Just getting used to Brighton, getting used to new way of life, slightly different structure of all that. But yeah, I mean, nice to have a house. House, good.
Hmm.
Seaside, good. Everyone being a parent with kids of the same age,
Mm.
good. What else? I mean, it's the Brighton Fringe, and there's also a 500 band music festival happening throughout May. So
Yeah.
there's lots to do. And the weather's picking up, so that's all been good. I miss some things about London, like I miss certain friends, having more local bars with bar owners that we like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think Remy's missing some of her friends from school. So that's been a transition basically for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, overall it's the right call, the right time. It was just any change or transition basically.
Yeah.
Um,
How far are you above sea level?
high, because we're on the top of the hill.
Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah.
I have looked at that. I think we'll be okay.
Well, yeah.
Um,
It's going to be a nice summer to be in Brighton by the looks of things.
yeah, exactly. Be nice summers from now on, really. So yeah,
Yeah.
until we get drowned by the sea levels.
Well, it's not that. At the risk of being a bore, there's a super El Nino. Have you read about
Oh yeah.
this? So there's a likelihood that temperatures could go up above 40 degrees in the UK. We're not talking about India anymore. It's like UK will be, as hot as Delhi gets. And that will kill off a lot of people. Either that or a lot of people will buy air conditioning. So it might be a good time to invest in air conditioning.
Yeah, we'll be all right. I'll
Yeah,
buy some air
you'll be
conditioning
fine.
when I need to. I'll be fine. It's probably the frail and the weak that will suffer the most. So.
Yes. Cleansing, as Boris Johnson would say.
Oh
Yes,
God,
thin
yeah.
out the
We get
herd.
cancelled for this. We're only about 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, are you spoken to Russ recently? Russ of now Gartner fame.
Mhm.
I've been reading a lot of the Gartner studies and stuff that have come out recently. I quite enjoy them. They're quite nicely well structured. They've got some sensible people behind them, such as Russ. So yeah,
Yeah.
you've been in contact much?
I text him once in a while, and he sent me a really interesting article recently. The upshot of which is, even though AI is going to be catastrophic long term, game theory says that won't prevent businesses going hell for leather to implement AI, which is kind of a suspicion that I have. But it's always nice to read an academic paper, which is that it's the same with climate change, right? Yeah, everybody kind of accepts that we damage the environment, but the commercial pressures and incentives mean that nobody actually does anything about it. And it's like, yeah, horrifying, but reassuring at once.
Is it reassuring?
It's reassuring to know that you're not delusional. I think these days it's sort of easier than ever to go off and spiral it off at a tangent and to lose touch with reality. And so I quite like it to have not just a diverse group of friends, such as yourselves and other people who can, challenge. That also happens a lot online. I express opinions online and carefully read through and sort through all the kind of the challenges. But the academic angle is another, spoke. But because I don't like to think that I'm in my old age just vanishing into my own navel or worse.
But the upshot of what you're saying is, it's gonna completely transform and destroy a lot of what we've become used to. And although it's going to be bad for people, companies are going to do it anyway.
Yeah, like climate change. Although it's going to be terribly, horrifyingly bad for people, companies won't be able to resist, as I say, the commercial pressures to implement AI to remain in existence, really, and remain competitive, which they'll do very aggressively, knowing that the way that plays out is not good. And there's a bit about universal income, but I think the reality is it's going to get very, very, very turbulent, very bad for a lot of people. And then that will effectively, a little bit like climate change, bring things to a crisis point where, which precipitates people saying, what are we going to do? The worry through the end of that process, at the risk of being boring, is along the way, we've lost control of the democratic process. Essentially, our vote has been, what's the expression, hijacked by commercial interests so that they can effectively stack the odds in their favor and get kind of favorable taxation. Because you might say, well, look, Nick, this is going to play out. Eventually, we'll have to tax the companies using AI and give that money back to people as UBI. But it looks like they might just continue to hoover up every last cent, for a very long time. So,
But yeah, I mean, that's also historically nothing new, to be honest. I mean, it's only been, 100 years?
Yeah.
Since everyone over the age of 18 could vote anyway. And so that's not it's probably the last sort of 100 years has probably been a blip in what has traditionally been a feudal, essentially. So we're just returning
that
to
perspective.
normality.
And I love that you have that historical perspective and expertise, because I think it's very sensible. And basically what you're saying is, well, back to being a serf, which is it is the what is it, techno-feudalism.
Techno-feudalism,
the gist of that is like actually having a vote and feeling vaguely democratic was all like a weird experiment and destined to fail. And so now let's go back to having a lord who whips his serfs if they're not digging the fields. So good.
I'm not saying that's what I want. To be the way that it's going. But what was the other thing you said? You said about
that's a common experience. I say things and I'm completely forgettable. That's the problem. I was in security going to the airport at the security scanner, and I was just lifting one of these trays up, and a security guy looked at me like this, like an expression you very rarely see. He was like, I can see a ghost. And I was like, what is it? And he said, you look exactly like my colleague. I thought it was you. And this was in Poland. And I just, on reflection, I realized I had mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, I was like, there's nothing especially unusual about me. And on the other hand, I was like, it's nice to know that there's a few of us like clones, like moving around doing different jobs.
You might be used in the future. I mean, I get told I look like loads of people. From
the
various
TikTok bloke.
Yeah, there's that guy. What's his name? He's hilarious.
He is.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
I get sent that quite a lot. My friends send me those quite a lot. Because he also says things in parody that I actually say. The one about being a consultant and droning on about some bullshit nobody cares about over Christmas. That's me, unfortunately. So what I was going to say was come back to the point about the market and stuff like that. I was just chatting to somebody from a network. She was saying that about 30 of the 100 people in that network have been looking for a new role for over 6 months, something like that. These are senior folks. So I think that's also the thing I've noticed as well with just the conversations I've had, is people that have been who are in leadership positions in big companies that have undergone this change and have fallen out of that and realized that they've kind of lost any practical delivery and tactical skills that companies now are more looking for more. Lots of people with lots of experience, at least in a leadership position, coming to me and saying, I could help you out with the work that you're doing. What are your skills? Well, I can manage stakeholders, I can lead a team, and it's like, well, that's great, but I don't need that skill. I need somebody who can make things and deliver stuff. So I do worry about that class of employee in particular.
It's super interesting, that topic. I had very similar experiences. Part of the reason why I'm doing what I do today, because as you ascend the kind of corporate ladder, you get to the point where you realize that all you can do is attend Zoom meetings and answer emails. Like, it's not really, it's not really a transferable skill. So for me, this has meant reconnecting. And now I do a heck of a lot. I do like the whole end-to-end thing, like, come up with a proposal, do all the design, do all the delivery, create stuff with AI, everything. I love that. It's not quite as good as being a plumber, but it's on the way. There's a sense of imminence philosophically, but I saw it at both ends, and I'm almost more worried about the other end. So when I was at EA Consulting, I had the same experience. People came to me and said, "Well, I'm leaving, thinking of going independently. Somebody said I should come and talk to you about building a network." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but what can you do?" And they're like, "Well, like you said, I can manage stakeholders. It's basically I can respond to emails and attend meetings." Part of the problem is that AI can do that. So we're going to see a swathe of, I think, middle management, which are effectively just doing kind of micromanagement type stuff. Massive cost opportunity there to take out that cost. Being replaced by AI will do it better. But I almost feel more sorry for people coming into the job market, because that's the other end. And I think it's such a crappy deal. It's like, get your education. Yes, you're going to have to take out a huge loan, but you'll be able to pay it back when you get your high paying job, which you'll get because of your education. And then it's like, wow, what? That was a total scam. You lied to us. There is no high paying job. Now I've got this huge loan and the cost of living is going up and I can't afford a house. And it's like, I'm not surprised that, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are just so disgusted and disenfranchised. I think they were just tricked. And they were, it is kind of, I've called it financial indenture, like financial servitude as well. It's like, yeah, well, we told you to do that, but now you're just going to have to pay it off, more full you. I think that's terrible.
Yeah. I saw a couple of things. One was, is it Eric Schmidt, the Google chairman or CEO, getting booed at a university at graduation when he started talking about AI. I get that visceral reaction, to be honest, from somebody who's coming into the job market. And also, someone who came out through a graduate scheme as a doctor with a PhD or something like that, saying, "Look, I've applied for 100 jobs, barely ever get a response." I mean, we advertised for a job recently as well. We had hundreds of applicants, and we had to use a system to kind of triage some of them. But we worked really with a really good company who I will shout out at the end, actually, because I think if you are hiring, then these guys were top notch. Yeah, the job was kind of taken down, and I'm still getting applications, and they was, the idea that we'd be able to respond to every single one with a reason why we're not taking them forward is also unreasonable, to the point about being overwhelmed with comms. So it just seems
it's
very
interesting.
levels.
I've seen the same thing and listened to a great many people on TikTok describing their experiences, and you say it's miserable and soul destroying, and you feel so cheated, I think, when society has led you to believe that if you jump through these hoops, there's a reward at the end. I also wonder, reflectively, why am I still getting work? And I think it's for these two reasons. I think it's because, for your point, I can actually do stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I can do. Somebody says, go stand in a room, show these leaders how to be better leaders. I can do that tomorrow. And the second thing that I can do is I've got critical thinking skills. And there's a lot of talk about that, which is a complex thing, but it's basically the ability to exercise judgment across a kind of a wide range of domains. And I think that those are things in scarcer supply at the moment. So I do think there's prospects for older people who might have done, lots of stakeholder management, but still can make good decisions around things and think through problems. Because that's, I think, a big part of what you do is you help people to solve problems. So you're sort of trading on your critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
I think that's, I kind of legitimately still get work, not just because I'm well known.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of the reason, well, we've talked about this a little bit before, but I think the opportunity from the way I see it is, in that critical thinking skills perspective, there's also value for, particularly people outside of L&D, to have somebody externally come in and go, this, to play back where the organization is today and where they want to get to and what needs to be done to get them there. But that, again, we talked about this, is taking us very much out of the L&D space, into more of a kind of org development, org design,
Yeah.
culture, systems, that kind of thing, which I think is why I find it really interesting, because I know what I can support that, because I run a business and I understand at the the pointy end in things like invoicing and commercial decisions and stuff like that, which are just kind of scaled up in big businesses. And that's been a sort of accidental growth for me, rather than something that I'd purposely gone out to do. It's kind of just by having the nature of being running this business, which again, I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity, particularly in corporate. They're two steps away from those decisions being made. If you're running a one man band type setup, as long as you can feed yourself, that's fine. When you start having to feed lots of other people as well, that's when the sort of pressure becomes slightly different. So that's been quite interesting to see how that's been going. And then the other part is obviously the AI thing. So again, I'll shout out to our partners Foil on this one. They do AI and strategy, AI implementation and strategy. They do the technical side of things. So all their target audience is CTOs. Obviously, our target audience is CPOs, and between those two people in businesses, they're kind of largely covering the "what the fuck do we do about AI" question. So it's a good partnership for us, and it's led to lots of really good conversations. And frankly, I'm as good at, if not better, at selling the proposition that they have, because it's something that people are biting our hands off for. It's just more about how we position what we do in that relation. So I'm part of the problem, but it's easier to make money that way.
Yeah, well, yes, you do missile manufacturing.
To the point about like companies are going to do it anyway because it makes them money. Unfortunately,
this is what I mean. It's all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. But it's funny, that Eric Schmidt conversation. It reminded me a lot of the Lord Farquhar, from Shrek, where he says,
some of you may die,
but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And I think that's kind of where we've got to, is that it's not just these senior business leaders are divorced from everyday concerns. They no longer need to care. They can say what they like because there's no feedback loop. It's like, we don't need you. Somebody was saying that this is what it's like with AI in business now, is that it's like businesses are cheating with their employees. They're cheating on their employees with AI in front of their faces. They're like, I can't wait to get rid of you and be with AI. What are you doing? I'm talking to AI. What do you need? Well, I was just wondering if you give me a bit of help. AI doesn't need any help, And so it's like it's just this weird dynamic where employees are feeling that their businesses cannot wait to replace them with AI, and it's like, and you expect us to be bought into that. And I do talk to organizations where it's like they're trying to rally people's enthusiasm behind AI, which is going to be a tough, order, I think.
We just put together a proposal / proposition for a company where they've said, look, we're not using AI to get rid of people. Absolutely not. That's not what we're doing. We're just not going to hire anyone new. So ultimately, the outcome is the same.
Weasel words. Yeah, I saw somebody similar saying, it's not AI doesn't take away jobs, it just means you're so much more productive. And it was like, well, let's translate that. It means that the jobs that you would otherwise have had to give somebody to do, you're not going to give somebody to do. Does take away jobs. It's just a tick of the spin around this hybrid working. What a load of crap. It's like selling tractors to farmers on the basis that, they'll work alongside the horses in the fields. You still have.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen. But I mean, I know everybody listening to this, all of the 2 people listening to this might, be concerned that AI is still buggy and can't run a popsicle stand. And there is a paper that shows that. But the problem is that it's developing exponentially well. And there's just so many roles in big corporates, especially knowledge work, which are the sweet spot for kind of AI implementation, where you are just shuffling emails a lot of the time back and forwards, and it's not entirely clear what your productivity is. I've done a few TikToks about this, which is why do we even have leaders and managers? It's because if you're CEO of a company with 1,000 people, you can't sit down and talk to 1,000 people. So you've got to hire 10 people who talk to 10 people. And now you've got 10 senior managers and 100 middle managers in order to talk to people. But that's a human capacity thing. It's like, why can't I have 1,000 one-to-ones in a week? Well, there's only one of me, and I just can't have that many conversations. So that whole raison d'etre for kind of leadership and management is kind of evaporating in front of our eyes. So it is a shocking period of time to live through, I think. I think it's almost like the before the storm. I think we're just beginning.
It's like watching it's like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Like, we all know where we're going.
Yeah.
We all know this is going to end up terribly.
Mm.
Something terrible is going to happen, but no one, we can't stop it. So we're just sort of clinging on. I was at a party the other day and talking to somebody who's just had to basically sell up their house because their company's gone under.
Yeah.
They work in media, and he was saying that he was. I remember, I think it was Volvo recently did a fully AI advert, and he was looking at that, going, "What would have that cost us to do that? We've got to, well, logistically, you've got to block the road, you've got to get all the permits, you've got to have all the crew there, you've got to have this various equipment to follow the car down this windy road, et cetera, et cetera. You've got to fly everyone out there." And he's like, they probably did that for like 10K.
No, I mean, I created like a 1-minute advert for a program that, given that I don't have a lot of expertise in that, I think would stack up quite well against some of the professional ones. It was 1 minute of different people in offices and historical figures, Napoleon, whatever, talking to camera about the importance of leadership. And it was pretty much photorealistic through and through. I used Suno to develop the soundtrack, developed a 1-minute production of different people in different locations with a soundtrack to match and, a bit of editing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, you could not only could you not have filmed that, then back in the BBC days, you'd be saying 50K to kind of get started, really, to do something like that. Just, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a broken record. But I guess it's the stuff that worries us. It sounds like it worries everybody else as well. So the two people listening to this might find some solace in the fact that we're also worrying about it. I don't know if we should do what I thought I was going to do, which was to talk to you about this Gartner paper that I found, but it is about AI.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, hit me with it.
Yeah, okay.
So this is coming cold for anybody listening. I have no idea what this paper is, or are you just going to read me the paper? That could be.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a paragraph of the paper, and then you're going to comment on it. So I'm going to read the first paragraph. Over the past few decades, wave of technology-driven business transformation have shifted the focus from how an enterprise operates to how it sells, to what makes and what it does, and to who buys and makes and sells. The next wave is autonomous business. It's already happening, and it will gain pace over the next 5 to 15 years. The evolution of AI and the CEO and the board interest in the potential impact of AI-driven enterprise change is the inflection point that makes the autonomous business possible. But you can't take the CEO and board member exuberance about AI for granted. They're increasingly asking for better returns and a clear linkage to bigger business growth. Their initial patience meant enterprise chased use cases that by definition were about leveraging the technology's capabilities. These efforts have led to great learning, but not great ROI. Executive leaders must create an autonomous business strategy that emerging AI technologies and automation capabilities, and initially places a balanced emphasis on people, amplification and efficiency. So that's the first paragraph, and it's called Monetizing AI with the Autonomous Business.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of bland. It doesn't say anything, but it says it. The whole value of that paper is the brand. It's like, it's Gartner. So, I think that I'd like to hear something which is a little bit more forward-looking in a way. And what I mean by that is this. It doesn't have a kind of a strong metaphor or a strong narrative as a paper. So if I was going to add a narrative, I would say it's the Cambrian explosion. So the Cambrian explosion was a period in evolutionary history where, because of some change in the environment, we're not 100% sure what, there was this massive diversification of species. And then what happened was we saw that collapse in the fossil record as those species competed and the winners emerged. So this is what typically happens with technology, is that Amazon only exists because of the internet, and somebody sees that opportunity. But at the time, and the same is true of Google, anyone remember Alta Vista? All these competing like search engines and Yahoo, and that was like the Cambrian explosion. And
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves, yeah. And then there was a collapse and a winner emerged. And so we're going to go through this horrific period of time where different AI models compete. and different AI-driven business models compete. And you're right about the autonomous model. Basically, if you can say, well, Charlie, you do this role, I'm going to create an AI agent to do your role. Why not create an entire organization to do that, where you've got a number of people, leaders, engineers playing different roles, and they all report into somebody in your organization? It's a really interesting model because a lot of the things that people miss is that the CEO is the role that gets replaced. It's like people like to dream that, the CEO who now only has to manage all these AI agents, but actually the CEO is the top candidate to be replaced because it's the prime kind of thing that AI does so much better. So actually these organizations aren't going to be reporting into a CEO. They'll be reporting into, the shareholders, as you say. What's the problem with that? Well, there's a couple of problems is that as organizations grow and scale and get big, they become vulnerable to small, more agile organizations. And so some organizations try to foster internal innovation. So you could say, well, within that ecosystem, Amazon might, for example, set up a number of kind of AI businesses that compete and run autonomously. That has not been its strategy in the past. What it tends to do is it just buys up innovation. It's a really greedy, sneaky thing. So basically, it says, look, I don't need to bother about innovating when I'm Microsoft or Google or Amazon because I spend money and probably only about 1 in 100 things really comes off. So what I do is I just scan the marketplace and I see anybody who looks like they're about to kind of take off, I buy them up. Anything that looks might be, and I absorb it and reabsorb it. And so I do think that is broadly correct. The Gartner is that we'll see a flurry of more or less dysfunctional initially AI entirely businesses where AI is basically just running everything and making money and feeding it to the shareholders. But I also think that we'll get consolidation after a short period of time of competition, where some of the big people with the big data centers and the better AI models start to aggressively absorb those successful, AI business models. That kind of worries me because it heads in the direction of these enormous kind of AI monopolies that I think everybody's anticipating. The kind of winner takes all scenario, which is why there is a race for AI supremacy.
Yeah. Well, to your point about the Cambrian explosion, I suppose the technological version of that is that you get a generic AI, that general intelligence AI, that will basically do all the things that all the little AIs can already do. So you end up with just one or two, or competing masters that basically do all of the stuff that we need them to do.
Maybe like Omnicorp. I think we kind of already have, don't we, with a few big corporations who I probably can't name off the top of my head, but it's like you'll have the impression as a consumer,
BlackRock, isn't it?
yeah, that you're buying different products and
Yeah.
services from different organizations, but actually these are just autonomous AI companies that, so for example, you could set up an autonomous AI company that replaces Netflix. So it profiles you as a user, figures out what kind of music you like, or what kind of films you like, and it just generates exactly the kind of movie that you love, and it sort of feeds, or the music that you love, and it feeds that to you, and you pay a subscription for that. And somebody says, oh, that's cool, that's just killed Spotify, we're going to buy that, and then it becomes part of Amazon's kind of empire. So I think that will happen.
Yeah. I suppose the limitation is the energy.
Is the what?
Energy.
Why do you say that?
Because there's only so much energy in the world, and if you're every individual human being with their own Netflix account producing their own films, essentially, that's going to cost a lot of water. And if no one's got a job, who's going to buy the subscription from the AI? So, well, maybe the AI will help us figure out, be good, helpful, and help us figure out things like cold fusion and cure cancer and do all of the things that we're promised it will be doing. So there'll definitely be upsides.
I think you just put a positive spin on that. I mean, I think the energy thing is a real problem. And I think that one of the key areas that is being worked on is improving the efficiency of models. So the offset to that is barely a week goes by when I don't see some report that somebody in China has reduced the energy requirements of a model to 20%.
DeepMind was the original one, wasn't it?
Yeah, DeepSeek. And I think that will happen as well. I think there will be some limitations. I saw this horrific statement that they're building this enormous data center the size of Manhattan, in somewhere in the US. So at the moment, investment is pouring in. But I do think
Utah, I think, isn't it?
What's that? In Utah?
Utah?
Yeah.
And then you got I saw the billionaire, And he was like, what I asked him was like, the people of Utah have no, or Ohio, I can't remember what it was, have no control over you doing this and taking all
Yeah.
of their water.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, but they do, because
Yeah.
we could build it somewhere else. It's like, yeah, but you're
I,
building it
I,
then.
yeah, I sincerely think people are losing control of any kind of control, really, because, as I say, essentially, I guess technology and corporate interests have hijacked the democratic
Yeah.
process in a way that's just kind of horrifying, frankly. But I think that
Mm.
I'm interested in your assumptions about how it will play out, because many people commonsensically think, well, there's a problem. If people aren't earning money, how are they going to spend money on the services? But I think the other solution might be that just people just die out. That
Well, this
we
is your
just
theory that
focus on
the
the
AI
big,
is going to kill us with kindness, isn't it?
yeah, the smaller number. It's an accumulation of wealth, isn't it?
Mm.
So if you're working your way up the pyramid, it's inevitable that the people at the bottom don't have enough money, but then you just harvest the people further and further up until all the wealth is kind of accumulated. And then, you just sit in your bunker, which seems to be the preferred option for the techno CEOs, the tech bros.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been watching The Boys.
Yeah.
Seen The Boys?
I get snippets of it.
Yeah. It finished this week. It was fine. It was an okay finish. They always struggle to finish on a high. But I mean, that's a very similar to what we're talking about with regards to like Vought being the big corporate that basically has its hands in every single pocket, and the most powerful person in the world is literally the most powerful person in the world as well. And controls everything, and puts people in camps who don't agree with them, and
yeah.
So there's lots of similarities, and it's basically a commentary as well on Trumpian approaches to things. Where was I going with that? Yes, more of the same, but in fact is kind of stranger than fiction at the moment.
Yeah, I think
Only just.
I think that China's just kind of sitting back and just watching the American experiment implode, really.
Yeah.
But I just think it's fascinating. What it demonstrates, I think, is that if you base a system on unconstrained greed, that eventually it consumes itself. And the very same second that you and I are meeting and shaking hands, I'm wondering how I can sue you for something. And that ultimately makes it very difficult to collaborate in ways which build enduring organizations or what have you. And so I think China is probably in a much, much better position. I'm not the only person to make this observation. It's also interesting that America is focusing AI investment on the consumer market, whereas China's strategy is very different, in line with the 5-year plan to focus on building infrastructure and investment and in people. And I think that whilst I think ultimately AI is not sustainable, I think that will kind of play out better over the longer term. So yeah, it is interesting, watching it. You just wonder when something's going to go bang. I think that's partly, I have this kind of now persistent anxiety about, I wake up every day slightly surprised that, it's not the end of the world. I mean, honestly, it's not a great way to live.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the moment, I feel I get a lot of positive vibes from just being able to turn it off. And there will be a time when I can't turn the bloody thing off because it's following me around, trying to do my dishes for me and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, just today I've spent my entire time in one room talking to a screen of about 16 inches or whatever it is, 32 inches. And yeah, at least at the end of the day, I can shut my laptop and go outside and take the kids to the park and have that kind of human connection. But I think to your point about implosion, it feels like all of the forces are pulling us in the other direction, which is making our world smaller and smaller. Yes, got to find a positive spin in this somewhere. I spoke to Dan Bowser the other day. Do you remember Dan?
What was that? Dan Bowser. Yeah, I remember him very well. How is he?
Yeah, he's really good. He's really positive chap, at least on LinkedIn. Yeah, he's doing a bit of work. He's got some, I'm not sure exactly if he's doing 5DR stuff, but I had a quick chat with him before he decided to give it a go on his own. But to the point we were making earlier, he's somebody I think that can do stuff as well as think stuff. So I've rated his chances. But
yeah, he's been running a podcast or a radio station for a very long time. A lot of experience of very practical digital things, and a really thoughtful and kind of good listener. I've always loved working with Dan.
Yeah, he's definitely a coach, isn't he? Because he'd always ask you a follow-up question kind of prompts your thinking a little bit. The other person I spoke to earlier was Samant.
Yeah.
He's got a podcast coming out, which I
Nice.
can't tell you about too much, but it's coming out for the World Cup. So yeah, he seems to be. It's going to be a good one. He's got some good guests on there, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose there's a lot of people in my network now who are individual freelancers, selling their wares these days, which I guess is probably good from a company corporate perspective, because there's lots of individuals with lots of talent that you can bring in just when you need them and don't have to pay them a wage.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? It's like I saw something similar happen in my time at the BBC, where a BBC production used to involve a whole team. There'd be a couple of sound people, the director, production assistants, producer, sometimes several layers of producers, directors, film people. And in news, at least, it started to shift in the direction of self-shoot, where, you were doing everything. And so you're doing sound and film and direction and production and editing as well sometimes. And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I think L&D maybe, I've worked on a couple of projects where in the past it might be a team of, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe 10 of us working to produce this program and deliver it. And now it's just me. And I'm thinking, it's good in some ways. It's a lot cheaper for the clients, but I also feel quite stretched, which philosophically is a good thing, but also, I don't know. I think it's like production values. I make a lot of low production value TikToks, but I sort of kind of quietly long for the days when everything was carefully thought through and scripted and crafted. And, maybe that's just a thing of the past.
But it's massively limiting to work on your own, I think. From just a diversity of thought perspective, I think you get loads from having conversations with people. What I do, have conversations with the team. A lot of people think differently to me, come up with a better solution as a result. So I do think if you're working on your own, having a network of people that you can kind of rely on and talk to, and work through ideas and things like that is always good.
Yeah.
So there's probably an argument. I mean, this is a pitch for us really to say there's probably an argument to say there's like a sort of boutique level that makes sense. Beyond that, you're probably paying for a resource that you don't really need. I mean, the classic criticism of my clients to say working with some of the big four is that they'll throw a very inexperienced bunch of consultants at you for 10 people to do one thing because that's their business model.
It was always slightly, we can talk about consulting and big four actually having come from obviously PA, but also to the business model. I began to feel, it comes into focus, which is the way it works. For anybody who doesn't know the way it works, is they hire somebody who's either got really good relationships or who's considered an expert in their field. And then that person kind of rocks up to the pitch. And then because their day rate is so high, the business has to shuffle them onto the next pitch. So you're left with a bunch of grads who are the brightest grads. And the reality is they can often figure things out. But essentially, they're working through the night often and through the weekends. I know because I spent thousands of hours interviewing them to deliver against the promises that have been made by the big cheese who's now wandered off. And they kind of figure it out because they're smart. But they do generally not really know what they're doing. And it does make the clients quite uneasy at times. And you might say, well, how does that business model work at all? And it's because once you're in an organization, people stop doing things. And it's just so weird. They stop doing things because it's risky to do anything. And so you're getting paid at the end of the month anyway. So why would you do it? So it's about outsourcing risk. And effectively, it's mercenaries. You're buying in mercenaries to get stuff done because your business model prevents the people in your business from getting stuff done. So you can see with this kind of clarity how it works, but it still hinges on some really dysfunctional kind of things and sort of behaviors. So I was glad to have been part of it, but now glad to, I think, be out of it. I learned a lot through that time.
Yeah. I mean, so again, for those who don't know, when Nick and I left BP, went to PA Consulting for a few years, and it was a cultural shock. Let's put it that way. The first project we had that we worked on, it was with, I think Gemma was there as well. We ended up in Manchester at an insurance firm where we'd been sold in to do this piece of work without really any context at all. And then rocked up to the meeting. Was it the CLO? Or at least the head of learning or whatever, and he didn't know why we were there. So it was a interesting process. And then I guess the preceding story was that they introduced this new technology and they basically made a load of people redundant, I think, didn't they?
Well, I can
what happened afterwards? Because I didn't stick around long enough for that.
So it's really interesting because that was such an interesting project. So maybe that story is worth telling. So I joined PA Consulting and I was put on a 3-day induction program. And on day 3, exactly as you say, I was told, oh, you have been sold. Sold? What does that even mean, being sold? Oh, no, that's how it works. You've been sold on a project. And it's like, really what? Wait, what? Just get on a train, go up to Manchester. And it was for a big insurance company where basically, because they hadn't digitized, their numbers were just sliding downhill and everybody was blaming everybody else. And so it was densely kind of political and divisive. And I remember thinking, well, I know nothing about this particular domain, but I'm very happy to
Give it a
listen
go.
and do the right things, right? Which is, you listen, take stock of what's happening, and then you contribute to the best of your abilities. So I thought, yeah, that's fine, I'll do that. And I was standing beside a coffee machine couple of weeks into this project, and they'd organized this, I don't know if you know this story, this massive get together of like 50, like of the people who would normally not even stand to be in the same room, literally, as each other. And I was getting my coffee. I still remember it with crystal clarity. Somebody sidled up to me as I was getting my coffee and said, so, Nick, what do you think of this meeting? I said, I think it's really good that we're getting everybody together in a room across the whole organization to try and thrash out these problems. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what people have to say. Blah, blah, blah. And they waited for me to finish and said, yeah, we thought you could lead the meeting. And having come from BP, a meeting like that, you would prepare for months. You would agonize over every word on every slide. You would go backwards and forwards to everybody attending the meeting and make sure that, they were happy with what was going on. And it was one of those like, do I just run? Do I just literally run from the building, get on a plane, change my name, move to another country? And so, yeah, but I mean, I learned something from that. I also met some really interesting people like Paul Lundbeck, who I've worked with subsequently, went on. It was great because he was, I think, as bemused by everything as we were. He was like, this is just a circus. And so I think we spent a lot of time, I think you and I both had this experience of being kind of parachuted into conflict zones is how it felt intellectually, not to, over dramatize it. I am being a bit melodramatic, but that was often the brief. It's like, there's this absolute chaos that nobody can unravel. Off you go, get on a train, see if you can figure out, what to do and keep everybody happy. And I mean, those sorts of challenges, I think you really grow through them if you're not destroyed by them.
I have a similar story. It was actually at Freeformers, which is not the Freeformers that now exists, but in a previous form. Well, I was probably 2 weeks in, and one of the bosses kind of came out to me and went, "Oh, Charlie, would you help me prepare for this meeting we're running with the whole team?" Yeah. So I was like, "That's fine." Did some slides or whatever for her. And then went downstairs. Everyone was there waiting, and then she was like, "So yeah, Charlie's going to lead this one." I'm like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
Are you talking about?" And I sort of muddled my way through it as best that I could. Then once I sort of got my feet under the table and settled in a little bit, I was chatting to one of the lads there. I was saying, yeah, so this thing happened where this lady just basically threw me under a bus in front of everybody. And he was like, yeah, we thought you were an absolute idiot because you didn't know what the hell you were doing. I was like, fucking no. Oh, God. Yeah. That was a nightmare.
Yeah. The politics, now, however much you think, I'm not going to get drawn into the politics. I'm going to remain outside it. I'm not going to end up lying awake at night, fretting over what somebody said. It always gets you. It always hunts you down and tracks you down, and you end up, anxious about, how being thrown under a bus, for example, and why somebody did that, and, how you get your own back and reestablish your self-esteem. It's a brutal environment.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any way to wrap this up in a positive way before the weekend. Bank holiday's coming. That's positive.
Yeah. It's going to be a hot one due to climate change.
Please.
I'm reading some good books at the moment. A friend of
Yeah.
mine recommended this book, The Culture Map.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is good fun. I'm enjoying, just getting perspective. Kate Fox's book, Watching the English, is awesome as well. And I'm just
yeah.
rereading bits of this, Dan and Chip Heath's The Power of
That's
Moments, which,
fantastic.
every time I go back to it is great. And also Lovecraft, the collected stories, which gives me some kind of sense of connection with somebody who feels the same, sense of impending horror, on a positive note.
I've got a book, which is Jim Alexander's book.
Oh, okay, cool. What's it called? You have to say, because people are listening to this podcast,
Yeah, of course. It's called Become an Impact Powerhouse. So he's got a model around, influence, making, communicating effectively, all that good stuff. He's actually the person that introduced us to Foil, the AI company I was talking about. He's also put us in touch with a few people as well. So he's out there batting for Solve Together at the moment, which I really appreciate. But he's also got that book. So I look forward to reading that. Obviously, I've got some gaps in terms of my ability to communicate effectively. So, yeah, looking forward to reading that. Have a nice weekend, Nick.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy
And we'll speak to you. We'll try and get, we've got a podcast coming up, haven't we, with Harold's Curious Corner in July, which we're going to go do. And we should try and get another guest on for next time.
Yeah.
Thought.
Yeah. I don't know who, but maybe somebody listening to this would love to be a guest and would give
An
us
email.
Somebody needs to give us a good run for our money, really. It's no good just you and I agreeing on everything on this.
Yeah, that's true. See you later, mate. Bye.
Right, bye.